the first to know when we release a new webisode. Sign up to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or to receive our email updates. See details at www.hivtalkshow.com.
And I noticed some time ago that getting tested has, or people kind of perceive getting tested as your defense. Since I've been tested, I can't get HIV, or this proves that I'm doing something right, when in reality your HIV test is only, your result is only as good as your last sexual exploit. And there is a window period which we know about. So I hear a lot of people say, oh, I get tested regularly, but they don't talk about their behavior. So just because you get tested does not mean that you still aren't engaging in behaviors that can put you at risk for getting HIV.
And it's not just about folks that are, getting a test and wearing a condom. It's also about, for brothers that are positive, making sure that, they do have a low viral load. Like, we realize now that, part of HIV prevention is trying to make sure and ensure that our brothers are, accessing treatment. And I think that's also a really important piece. So again, it's not just about getting a test, that's part of it. And it's not just about wearing a condom, that's part of it. It's also about making sure that we take care of our brothers and that they're accessing treatment so that, the viral loads are, undetectable or low enough where that they might not be as infectious as if they weren't in treatment. So.
And then educating them about how to take care of their bodies. So for example, anal health. That's not something that we talk about a lot, but we know that your anal health really can affect your chances of contracting HIV and other STIs. And then also I'm kind of baffled by the lack of options. Like I said this before about the condoms. I used to live in Europe, and when I lived in Europe, there was post-exposure prophylaxis, which is widely available. Your insurance covers it, and it reduces, this is what the doctor told me, is that it reduces, even if you've been exposed to the HIV virus, it reduces your chance of actually getting HIV by 80%. And it just baffles me that we don't have something like that in America, or anal or rectal microbicides, or other tools that can reduce your risk, and other information as well that can reduce your risk of contracting HIV.
Yeah, we can blame the government for there not being as much access to treatment and Medicare and stuff like that, and we can blame, homophobia and racism, and I think that we have to look at the structural, components of the conditions we live in. But I'm also baffled that as Black, gay, or as gay communities in general, we haven't created communities where folks necessarily feel okay being out about their HIV status. And I think we also have to look at ourselves and how we can create spaces and create environments where people feel okay. Because in a lot of our communities, we stigmatize HIV too. And so I think it's unfair to expect people to come out to be out about their status and seek treatment and care and those things, if even in our very own communities, we still stigmatize HIV. So I think we need to look at ourselves too.
I think there's also a gap too. I mean, this conversation's been dominated by, sexual practices, but we know that people are contracting HIV other ways. There's intravenous drug use, right? And, that runs rampant, particularly in our Black gay community, but there's not really any directives that address that, widespread issue. So how do we have this holistic message?
Well, actually, in Atlanta, I believe, or one of our partners, we engaged in the needle exchange, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, not in Atlanta so much, but there's like the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition, I believe it's called. But again, there's a federal ban on syringe exchange, right? And we know through scientific evidence, that through giving people clean needles, that significantly reduces the rates of HIV infection.
So Joe, we've been talking about that judgment creation that we all do. Have you experienced judgment?
Easily. Anytime I've wanted to confide with certain friends, if I felt that I had done something that had put my health at risk, that was sexually, since this is of course the arena that we're speaking in, then there always is kind of a measure of judgment. But I'm very thankful that the community of friends that I came out into were friends that were activists with HIV and AIDS. The community that I came out into is one that I have to say I'm privileged to have been, oddly enough, to have come into, because they had dealt with these issues before, and aside from that, they were championing different initiatives, social initiatives, mostly grassroots, so that persons wouldn't have to deal with that. But just kind of going back to what we were speaking about a little bit before, about all these messages that we receive, there is a political component, but I think this is a social ail. And so in this very consumerist culture, everything, like was said before, has to have a slogan. It's like everything has to be sexy and have a soundbite. So in that case, we have to find something that's quote unquote sexy and has a sound bite to go along with this. What I saw in New York is that they were having the GMAD posters, and the GMAD posters were actually on a separate issue. It was about parents accepting their gay children. But you have a regular looking father and, you know, his son, and he's like, I love my gay son. Just that simple. Why can't it be, this is my friend, and I care about my friend, he happens to be HIV positive. Just that simple. So that that message is circulating in your mind that there is no judgment that goes along with it. That person didn't stop being their friend. That person never stopped being supported, because that's the whole thing. Isn't that the whole problem, that you're so afraid that you're going to be out in the wilderness, or you're going to be completely cut off from your support system and you're going to be ostracized? If we stop creating pariahs by means of the media and by means of these social systems, then we can start saving a lot more lives.
And also kind of like really get to, when I say taking out the judgment, really doing it completely. It came up in one of my psych classes, and it was so funny. It troubles me to be in spaces with individuals where we say we're going to do it, and then we go, like, we're not going to do something, or we're going to pride ourselves on effectively practicing the habit of not doing something, and then we go back to doing it, but think we're not doing it. And so when I say, like, affirming supportive friendships, my girlfriends who have had HIV, or the ones who, you know, are currently dealing with HIV and AIDS, we had to run the gamut of how we connected with one another. One of the biggest challenges is that I've learned that when I come from a place of being wounded, you know, growing up in the inner city, growing up in Southwest Atlanta, having to fight just to go back and forth to school, just to go back and forth home, having folks robbed, walking across people who have been shot, you know, there's a certain level of trauma I'm gonna be suffering from that is gonna cause me to respond to things a little bit differently. Outside of the community I'm a part of, which is gonna be more inundated with individuals that are concerned about their appearance, how they look, how they come across, how I talk, how what my family has and not what I really have, because just because your parents got money, that's not your money. You know, just because they set up a trust fund, they can take that away from you. So what we do is it's this air. So we go into spaces, no matter, and that's what I was alluding to earlier. No matter how enlightened we are, we go into spaces looking for reasons to create even another hierarchy for ourselves with individuals, so we can make people feel lesser than who they are. So a lot of people aren't going to confide a lot of things in you. A lot of people aren't going to receive as many messages from you. And I know, because of how I've came across a number of individuals, I've consciously tried to work on my approach each time and how I need to deliver that message and be mindful of, you know what, wow, if one more person says that I sound like I'm talking down to them, then obviously I'm talking down to them. And it's not cute. It may be cute because I'm around a bunch of other individuals, whether they want to deal with the fact that whatever happened in their childhood, whether it was traumatic or not, or whether they want to deal with that or not, it has created this air of, I think it's cute to create spaces or to walk around feeling like, you know, I can tear somebody down, whether it's intellectually, whether it's financially, whether it's professionally, and then expect them to confide in me or feel like whatever I have to offer them, whether it's resources or anything, they're going to receive this. Because even a lot of our friends, we can tell them our HIV status, but after that, we won't tell them who we dating, if we're still having unprotected sex, because it's like, oh, well, girl, I know I ain't going to tell you this, because after that little, you know, and we'll do that. Right. But we don't be mindful of it.
And I don't think not being judgmental is the same thing as not normalizing certain values and creating a system of ethics in our communities. I think what I've seen happen is the reverse, where folks sometimes try so hard not to be judgmental that they're not accountable to the people they love. Exactly. So they'll see their friends and loved ones engaging in behaviors that are self-destructive, whatever those behaviors are, and completely like not really respond or not really show up or try to hold that person accountable or even show that they care. And I've even been guilty of that. I've had situations where I've had people I love and care about engage in behaviors that are ultimately self-destructive, and because I was so nervous around not being perceived as judgmental or thinking I'm better or looking down on them, I completely remained silent. And I've seen, and you know, and I think now I'm at a point in my life where like my commitment in 2009 really is, you know, to speak up, and our risk being perceived as judgmental, and our risk being perceived as being looking down on someone if I think that my words can, can help them.